Good evening, ladies. In today's video, I want to go through where I think the best opportunities in altcoins are right now. If you've been in altcoins, if you've been following this channel, we obviously over the last 2 weeks had quite a significant pullback and absolutely crashed on meme coins. And I think people are starting to get a bit tired of the meme coin space. No, I don't think it's over for meme coins, but we had a giga pump from 60k all the way up to 100k. So I think the crypto markets just need to chill out for a bit, just need to cool off. I don't think you need to be panicking that the cycle is over, in my opinion. And Bitcoin dominance is at all-time highs. It's like 60%, over 60%. And I'm of the belief that this will drop at some point. And where are the best places to allocate in altcoins if you do want to take that risk at the moment? Because everyone's like, oh, this is a different cycle. It's only going to be Bitcoin that goes up. There's no point holding any altcoins. That's exactly what you want to be seeing for a Bitcoin dominance top to come in. And I'm very much of the belief that, we're not in some sort of separate cycle where altcoins and crypto doesn't really take off, but Bitcoin does. I'm not of that belief. And I do think altcoins will take off. But there's obviously a billion altcoins. There's way more altcoins than there were in previous cycles. So you have to be much better at allocating to the right altcoins in this cycle in order to perform well. And yeah, like I said, meme coins might be a little bit tired. People might be like, okay, the meme coin thing, we all got so nihilistic. All the VC coins with the insider cabal bullshit, like that actually transferred over to meme coins, but people got sick of the VC coins. So the whole nihilistic, none of this stuff has any value, that narrative just got so strong, and meme coins got so strong. They're also having a cool off period. So potentially, I think there's going to be certain niches that are going to do very well in the interim before Bitcoin breaks all-time highs and goes on its next run. Because I do think we need, a while, maybe a month, maybe a couple of months, maybe even longer, for Bitcoin to chill out before it can really start taking off again, in my opinion. And that's just based off, liquidity and general vibes, I think. When you have a massive pump like that, sometimes you just need to relax, and it takes time for more people to enter the markets with fresh liquidity. So in that interim time, where is the money going to flow? And I think, like I said, meme coins and nihilistic stuff going to take a break, and there's going to be a bit of a return to fundamentals. And what are fundamentals in crypto? That would be things like protocol fees and protocol revenues. Like, kind of think of, if a TradFi investor is coming into crypto, where would he allocate funds? Like, where is there actually fundamental value? He'd be like, okay, this platform, this project, this application makes a shitload of revenue, but its market cap is quite small and it's growing really, really fast. That's probably worth buying. And they also do token buybacks. And the tokenomics aren't total garbage. It's not just completely owned by VCs. It's like mostly owned by the community, and the community is buying more, that kind of thing. So that's kind of the thesis here. And we've started to see this play out already. The kind of coins that I'm describing are the ones that are holding up well, or actually even increasing over the last month or so. Now, am I 100% sure that they're going to be the best performing sector? It's just a thesis at the moment, but they are showing a bit of resiliency. They are showing a bit of strength, and it kind of makes sense with where we are in the markets, in my opinion. Here's some examples of niches with fundamental value at the moment. I would think about stuff like real world assets, DeFi, and in the DeFi space, Aave and Maker, they've been doing very well. They're earning a shitload of revenue. Now, personally, I'm not invested in either of them because, as you're probably aware, I'm not very bullish on the Ethereum ecosystem, and I'm obviously much more bullish on the Solana ecosystem and other ecosystems that we'll talk about. So nevertheless, those Aave and Maker, they're doing very, very well, and they actually are making good money. So if you're still a believer in ETH, I would kind of, look for stuff that's on a price to revenue multiple is looking good. But in the Solana ecosystem, there's obviously stuff like Camino, Jupiter and Radium, with all the coins and all the activity that's happening on Solana, Jupiter and Radium are just making astronomical, unbelievable amounts of revenue. So they're kind of ones that I am invested in: Camino, Radium, Jupiter. Not huge allocations, but potentially Like the idea with this is as well is people are going to be a little bit less risk taking if Bitcoin is chopping here for a couple of months. So the coins and the projects with good fundamentals probably have less risk because there's kind of a floor and there's fundamental value to kind of, backstop massive losses, because people are like, yeah, but this can't be valued at zero because it's making so much money and it's actually buying back its own token. So Radium, Jupiter, and Meteora, you can't directly invest in it, but we are farming it heavily. So that's going to be a big airdrop, I don't know, in the next couple of quarters. And I'm farming it and I'm sharing all my plays in my private group if you're interested in that. But if you don't even want to take that much risk on the individual plays on Solana that are making a lot of revenue, Solana itself, like we can look at the top chains by revenue. Obviously Ethereum for the entire year of 2024 made the most revenue. Tron number 2. Like even though Tron is a bit grifty, you have to admit it's making a lot of revenue. And if you look at the chart of Tron, it's actually been very strong. So even though a lot of us in crypto don't really like Tron, we don't like XRP, you do have to, I'm not going to bucket XRP into Tron because Tron is actually making good revenues, but it's getting a lot of usage. Now, do I think Tron's revenue and usage is going to go massively up over time? Probably not as much as Solana, and Solana's actually eclipsed both of these in terms of revenue in, on a monthly basis. Like in the shorter term, like at the start of 2024, Ethereum was still making much more revenue than Solana, but by the end of 2024, Solana is now making much more revenue, or a little bit more revenue than Ethereum. So you don't want to just look at it statically and say, okay, what's earning the most revenue right now in comparison to its market cap? That's probably a good play. Like that's a good first order thinking and is right to an extent. But you also need to be looking out into the future and say, oh, which one has the highest growth rates? Obviously, Solana's growth rates have been absolutely mind-boggling this year. So, and I think that's going to continue, maybe not to the same extent of growth, but I think its growth rates are going to continue throughout 2025. Revenues are going to increase, and it's probably going to be the highest revenue chain for 2025, a layer 1 chain. So on a fundamental basis, Solana probably very, very strong to hold for 2025 and in the medium term. Now, it's also been kind of cool. Hasn't been going too crazy in the last while, so maybe it's due for a pump in the short term. But, it's something that it would be a little bit of a less risky investment than one of the applications built on Solana. So that's kind of the idea. If you wanted to, obviously Solana is still my number 1 position for 2025, but we'll kind of look at other ones that I'm making a bigger and bigger position into, which kind of similar thesis. And here's just another quick example of projects revenue, and most of these in the top 5 or so don't even have tokens yet, or don't have tokens, or will never have tokens. Obviously I don't think Tether will have its own token. Obviously it has USDT, and yeah, USDT to $10 if you think so, but you know what I mean. The only kind of projects with an actual token here would be BonkBot. BonkBot I guess has a token, but it's such a small part of, like, Bonk is a meme coin at the end of the day. It's the value is not tied to the BonkBot, but still making a shitload of revenue. Pump Fun is dropping a token soon. I'll probably be fading that, even though it's making so much revenue. I think there's something about them that's a little bit grifty. They're doing it via Dutch auction, so they're not just doing an airdrop. They're actually just trying to extract even more money, and they've already made $500 million in fees and just sold it all the Solana they made. They just sold it all. So I don't know, they don't seem like super community aligned. Like, that's the other thing you want to be looking out for, is the tokenomics, which I'll touch on in a minute. I'll just go through the rest of these, or any other ones. We can see at the bottom there, we have Maker, which we discussed, Uniswap making good fees. Dex Screener you can invest in, but Radium also making really, really good fees. Not to the, like a fifth the size of Pump Fun, and you can invest in Radium like we talked about. But what was I saying there a minute ago? So I was touching on the tokenomics of the project. It's not just about revenues. It's not just about growth rates. It is also important who holds the tokens, and is there a net sink to the tokens, or is there net inflation to the tokens? Like, is the team a net buyer of the tokens? An example would be Hyperliquid, where the team is actually buying more tokens and the protocol itself is buying more tokens. Or is it a net seller like Ethereum, which has now gone inflationary again, and the Ethereum Foundation are constantly selling more and more Ethereum. So Ethereum's upside then is just kind of like handicapped, or it's just always getting slashed because there's inflation, and then there's the Ethereum Foundation selling more and more, as opposed to something like Hyperliquid, which we're about to talk about, which is actually the team itself bought back a load of the tokens, and the protocol itself, all the fees generated go back to buying and burning tokens. So it's actually a deflationary. They're actually buying, I think at the moment, Hyperliquid are buying back about $1 million a day of Hyperliquid from the fees that the Hyperliquid protocol is generating. And then I did a full analysis on Hyperliquid in my last video. I highly recommend you watch that. And that's just kind of an overview of what Hyperliquid is, if you want to pause and read all that. But a few things to add on Hyperliquid, and I think this is my main play for the next few months. So I don't say I didn't warn you, but I'm buying Hyperliquid quite aggressively at these levels. They're bringing on Bitcoin Spot. So at the moment, they're trying to kind of replace Binance. Binance is like the most highly valued company in crypto, and BNB is the third biggest crypto coin, or it's like number 3 and number 5. It's in that range. It's like hundreds of billions, $100 billion. Hyperliquid is trying to replace that all on chain. So it's a huge total addressable market. It's growing massively. They're bringing on Bitcoin spot trading, and at the moment you can see this is from Masari. It's showing the percentage of spot activity on a centralized exchange in comparison to its perps. And generally, the spot is like 60 to 70%, and the perps is 30%. So right now, Hyperliquid is basically only perps. Like there is spot, but there's only spot for Hyperliquid, the Hype token, and other Hyperliquid aligned tokens. There's no spot for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. There's no spot yet. However, it looks like they're going to be implementing this soon. So this could, again, massively increase their dominance, increase their fees, and increase the protocol's revenue. And you can see they're absolutely taking over in terms of perps. And they make up 60% of on-chain DEX volume of perp DEXs. This is a kind of a little graph on the Hyperliquid stack, how it all works, the technology behind it all. So you can pause the video and look at that if you want. But yeah, I think Hyperliquid, kind of my main play with this thesis over the next few months. There's plenty of other ones that kind of fit into this category, but with the fundamentals being that the protocol itself is buying back hype, kind of the airdrop sellers are out for the most part. Like, you know, they had so much time to sell at much higher prices, and it's come back down, and at this point it's in an accumulation range. It's below the Leonardo DiCaprio 25-year-old resistance, so it's still chilling under there. I think eventually it's going to break out, and you know, for the medium term, kind of one of the best plays in my opinion, not financial advice, but that's kind of how I'm positioning right now. Another example that I forgot to mention is Grass, and I did a deep dive on Grass. I think it's one of the most interesting projects in crypto, and it's crypto with AI, but you know, it's not just a crypto AI meme coin like, or the AI agent stuff. It's actually like making a lot of revenue, real revenue, and yeah, that's another one with actual fundamental value. Now I will keep you updated if this thesis starts playing out in a real way, but for now we're allocating slowly to these kind of narratives, the fundamental narratives, but maybe it's just going to be continually meme coins still pushing, or nihilistic shit going to keep going crazy. But in that case, a lot of these coins, a lot of these projects would do well, like Radium would still be doing well, Jupiter would still be doing well on revenues, and you know, you can't dismiss massive fees and massive revenues. So that's kind of the thesis that I'm looking at for the next few months. A return to fundamentals. People actually want to invest with stuff that has product market fit, and they're kind of sick of crypto being made out as like a joke industry, and actually want to show that, you know, we are actually building something that is useful, and we are building actual useful applications that are getting real users and real revenues. So that's kind of the idea here, and I'll keep you updated on it. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed and hope you learned something. Cheers.